So I am going to show you in this video in the next 15-20 minutes that if you have the ability to plan for a holiday, well then you have the ability to plan and create a fitness program to reach your goal. So you're going to become a personal trainer in the next 20 minutes and a good one, or at least one that's better than the trainers in the Pure Gym. I'm joking, there's probably very good trainers in the Pure Gym and maybe some not so good, which we don't want you to be. We want you to be able to do what you need to do to reach your goal. So, first things first, when you're planning for a holiday, the first thing you do is you have a destination in mind. So maybe you want to go to Italy. This is no different to having a fundamental goal in your fitness journey. So, the country that you want for the holiday is the exact same as the underlying goal of wanting to lose weight or gain muscle or perform for a sport, etc. So if you can do that, you can figure out a fundamental goal that you want to achieve. Once you have that, you then look at the specific location of where you want to go within that country. So this is the same as the specifics of your goal. So if you want to go to Italy, perhaps you want to go to Rome. And then in that case, if you want to lose weight, perhaps you're really looking to lose belly fat specifically. Or you're looking to get bigger shoulders if you want to gain muscle, or you're looking to run faster, etc., etc. Now you can't spot reduce fat, but you can do some things to make your abs pop out more. But there are specifics to your goal on top of your fundamental goal. So if you can figure out where you want to make a location for a holiday, you can figure out your specifics to your goal. Then you have a budget for a holiday, and I'm going to kind of put this together as like the diet you need to achieve your goals. So you have a budget for travel, you have a budget for hotels, and you have a budget for the destination spending when you get there. So if you want to buy trinkets or whatever you do, buy pizza. It's the same as having a calorie restriction, figure out the macros for your goal, and then how many meals / the meal timings you would need to achieve it. So very similar. If you could do that, you can do the other one. And then you go to planning your trip. What airports are you going to use, etc. This is the same as in a fitness program. You're going to choose which exercises you want to select towards your goal, which days you want to work out, what weights and reps and etc. you want to use. And we're going to go through all of this in a little bit more detail in a moment as well, so if you're confused, don't worry. But if you could do that, you can do the fitness planning. And then picking a date to go and return, booking off time off work, etc. You want to have a time scale and what that holiday is achieved by. And you do the same thing in your fitness journey. You say what date you actually want to start, you figure out when that's going to be, and then you figure out roughly when you want to achieve that goal by. So if you can plan for a time period for a holiday, you can plan for a time period for your fitness goal. Then there's the prepping of travel, the insurance, the packing the bags, remembering suntan cream, that sort of thing. So this is the same when we're getting into a little bit more detail in the fitness plan, and we look at our adherence, making sure we're keeping, consistent, progressive overload, good technique, that sort of thing, and we'll go into how we keep on top of that. And then our arrival. So we actually got to the holiday, we had a great time, we went home, we ate too much, we drank too much, we made some questionable decisions, had some regrets, and then came back and never told anyone about it, and everything that we did stayed on that holiday and didn't even have any pictures to share to anyone. And then that's the same as reaching your goal, achieving what you plan to achieve, reevaluating, and then plan again. So let's go into it. Now that we know that we can do it because we can plan a holiday, we're going to find out how we plan our fitness goals. So first one. So destination and the fundamental goal. This is no different to what a PT does when he does his needs analysis and then figures out the individualization of what your plan is going to be, if he's a good PT anyway. So the destination / fundamental goal, how do you pick that? And there's a few ways that we can do this. So the first thing we need to do is understand where we are right now. We need to take our weight, we need to take our photos, address where our weaknesses are, that sort of thing. And then we need to be really honest with ourselves when we do this. Now this can be difficult. It's not always easy to be honest with yourself, but I want you to take into consideration that ignorance is bliss. But when you take away that ignorance, you may for a period of time feel weaker or mentally weaker than the person that was dwelling within ignorance. But to adapt and make your weaknesses your strength and become a stronger and more mentally strong person, you have to go through that painful process. So being honest with yourself is imperative for you to make a change of improvement. And it can be really tough. And I sympathise to how tough it can be, but it is important. It is a stepping stone to being better. Understanding your current limitations, injuries, likes, dislikes, etc. So this is going to help for some of the stuff from later on, but we really need to nail this down. What are your current limitations? Do you have any injuries, disabilities, travel limitations, family limitations, obligations, work limitation, children's? Are they going to limit you somehow? That everyone has some form of limitation, some less than others. But it's important that we get and understand what these limitations are so we can plan around them, like our injuries and likes, dislikes, etc. There's no point in putting an exercise in that you don't like, that you're just going to hate yourself after 3 weeks because you have to do another burpee, and nobody likes burpees. If you do, then you have much bigger issues than if you can plan for a fitness program. And then the location of the holiday, which is the same as the specifics, and what should they be? Now, if we've done the fundamental goal really well, the specifics are a little bit easier, because this really relates to your current goal. When we've had that little period of time, we've been really harsh on ourselves, perhaps we want to gain muscle, and then we can delve into the specific and we go, I want to gain muscle, and really my shoulders just suck. So there, straight away, we've got a specific. We want muscle gain, and we specifically want to prioritize our shoulders so that we gain musculature there. Now, sometimes our limitations can take away from the specifics. For example, if you want to prioritize your shoulders, but you just had a shoulder surgery and you can't work them, that makes it a little bit difficult. So this is where getting the fundamentals are so important to understanding what your specifics can be. Addressing any of the current limitations that you have, like the injuries, can prevent us from having certain specifics. Or we have to attack those certain specifics in a different way. And then keep in mind your likes and dislikes. So if you want to build your chest, or let's say you want to you want to lose weight, but you really hate running. You don't have to run to lose weight. You don't have to do that. You can choose other exercises and something that you like. Perhaps you hate cardio and you want to lose weight. You don't have to do any cardio to lose that weight. We just need to be moving more. We need to have a calorie restriction, and running isn't involved in that. Cardio isn't involved in that. Sometimes they can be helpful for losing weight, but it's not necessary. So keep in mind your likes and dislikes, because if you give yourself a program to lose weight and you hate cardio and it all involves cardio, you're not going to stick to it and you're never going to reach your goal. So there's no point. So make sure you nail that. And if you do all of this really well, you should have a really solid idea of where you want to end up and all of the things that can prevent you from achieving that so that we can plan around it. Cool. So we've picked our holiday and we know where we want to go in that country. Now we need to budget. So we've got our dieting restrictions to keep in mind. Budgeting for travel, we're gonna have the same as calorie restriction. Now you can do this in certain different ways. You don't have to track, but it's really helpful when you can use certain apps like MyFitnessPal and Chronometer to do this. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna track your weight as well. And you're going to track your weight in the morning, let's say on a Monday morning, and you're going to track everything you eat throughout the week. And you're going to weigh yourself on the Monday morning. And you're going to do that again for another week, just to avoid any variability. Do it for a couple of weeks, and you're going to have a really good idea of what weight movement you have compared to the calories that you're consuming. So if your plan is to lose weight, and you're having 2,000 calories a day on average, and your weight stays the exact same, you know that your caloric maintenance is 2,000 calories for the movement and lifestyle that you have at the moment. So you may need to drop calories, or you'll need to increase your movement. And how much you do this by is dependent on how much weight you want to lose and the time scale that you have it, etc. But that's how you have an idea of what your calorie restriction needs to be. If your looking to find the macros for your goals, then we can link this towards like looking for a budget for hotels. So we have proteins, we have carbs, and we have fats. Now all of them play their roles and they're all fairly important. So protein helps to build, maintain muscle and is the building blocks for performance. It's super important that we have our protein. First, number one priority of macro is going to be protein. We need to get this right, and this will be all of these will change slightly depending on our goals. If you want me to go into more detail on what our macros should be, I can do a video on that. For protein, we can say for most people's goals, roughly a gram per pound of body weight should be more than sufficient. It would change slightly whether you want to lose or gain weight, or if it's for performance, etc., or team sports, or however it is. But essentially that'll be roughly where it is. Carbs we can look at because they need to provide the energy for our workouts and our day-to-day. They help to spare the protein to be our building blocks for recovery and building muscle and maintaining muscle, etc. If we don't have sufficient amount of carbs, our body is going to look for energy from the proteins we're consuming or our fats, or maybe even taken away from our muscle and breaking it down to get the amino acid profile to then fuel us. So carbs are really important. It's like our petrol to top up our car, keep us going, keep us moving without using things that we don't want to use, like our protein or our muscles, and to keep our energy up. So getting those right can be important. Fats, the least order of priority here, but 0.3 grams per pound of body weight roughly is probably going to be about right. Just keeping hormonal and health balance here. Try to eat fats on the healthier end, like monounsaturated olive oils, that sort of thing, if you can. But again, I want to be super clear that when it comes to a body composition standpoint, our meal composition, how healthy they are, is important for our health, but for actually achieving the body composition that we want isn't so important. So just make sure that you're getting a good even balance of it, maybe like 80 to 20, 80% of foods that are relatively healthy and 20 that you actually just enjoy to keep you on your diet, to make sure you keep consistent, because consistency is always key when it comes to anything in fitness. And then you've got your budget for spending. So this is going to come to like your meal amounts and your meal times, etc. Not super important, but can really help out. A regular meal schedule is a really good idea. It probably will help you to keep adhered to your diet if you're eating at regular times. A schedule can really help to keep you consistent on that basis. So it's a good idea to get that in your head. If it needs to work around work, when can you eat while you're at work? When's your lunch break? When are you going to the gym? When can you fuel yourself after the gym? Like, when can you actually find these times to eat regularly? And then have an idea for that. And then if you're prepping meals, it can really help you out. Sizing, timing, and getting these things right can be really helpful. Again, for the fuel aspect of things, making sure you're getting nutrients that you need for recovery. And these can all change slightly depending on what goal you actually have. Again, if we want a video that's a little bit more in depth on how to do these things, I can make that for you. But just understanding what your goal is and the specifics of it give you the building blocks to then go out and search the knowledge that you need for your specifics, rather than just being blasted with information on different diets for all different things and you don't know which one to follow. Once you've got a really good idea of your fundamental goal and specifics, you know exactly what you're looking for, knowledge wise. Then we got planning for our trip. So this is the exercise selection. This is the amount of days that you're going to work out, that sort of thing, muscle prioritization and these sorts of areas. So this is where, when we was honest with ourselves, it comes in real handy, because this is going to make this a lot easier. So the first thing we can look at, just like when you're choosing an airport to fly at, whichever place is closest probably, you can choose which muscles you want to prioritize based on which ones you want to grow, or you know, which ones that you want to see the fat loss the most. So this goes back to like targeting belly fat. We can't specifically target belly fat, but maybe if you really look to your goal, you kind of want to see abs, and you could prioritize your abs as a muscle group so that when you lose fat, you see them quicker and they look better when you do see them. So muscle prioritization can be super important. Sometimes it's just a whole body, which is also really fine, but then the prioritization is just purely the whole body. Sometimes it's just upper body, sometimes it's lower body, sometimes it's a mixture. Really depends on the person, depends on the goals. So what we want to do when we're prioritizing a muscle, once we found it, and we found it because we was really honest with ourselves earlier, is the frequency for our prioritized muscle groups wants to be increased depending on recovery, etc. But it's the first thing you want to increase the volume of. You're only going to have a certain amount of volume before fatigue just overcomes you. You can't do 10,000 sets on your chest each week, probably time-wise, but even 100 sets. You probably can't do 100 sets of your chest each week, and if you can, you're probably not doing it properly, and your weight's probably too light, and it's probably not intense enough. But what you want to do when you have your priority muscle groups, you want to make sure that for the fatigue that you accumulate personally, you want to make sure that most of your volume increases are going into these prioritized muscles. So if you find out that you can roughly manage about 50 sets a week over your whole body, and you can increase that from 40, let's say you start a block, the increases you want to make, you want to prioritize on your prioritized muscle groups. There's no point in putting all those sets into calves if your prioritized muscle group is chest and you feel like it's recovering quickly and you can put more sets into it. You're not going to put it into calves. So frequency for the prioritized muscle group wants to be increased depending on how you recover, etc. If you're training the whole body, perhaps more volume on bigger lifts will be better, especially if you're new to the gym, because bigger lifts are probably more technically difficult. So if you're doing things like squats and you're just prioritizing the whole body, it might be a good idea to increase the volume of squats as long as it doesn't fatigue you too much, because you'll probably find that you're not that good at squats and you need to practice it more. So practice is going to kind of make perfect for this movement. Or like a bench, for example. If you're doing the whole body and you're getting bench press, and maybe in the back of your head you kind of want to get bench presses a little bit better as well, you might want to increase the volume of that so that you get to practice the movement more, understand how your body works with that movement more, and get better at it. So if you are training the whole body, I would recommend prioritizing volume increases on bigger, more compound lifts so that you get better technique over time. And then you pick your hotel, which is like your exercise selection. So you want to pick exercises that work and feel best for the muscles you want to hit. So if we go back to the bench press analogy or example is probably the right word. If we go back to the bench press example and you want to grow your chest, and that's your goal is muscle gain, you want to prioritize chest growth. And every time you get under that bench, your shoulder hates you and every bone in your body for putting you into that bench press, and you never feel your chest and it sucks. It doesn't mean you're never going to be able to bench press, but it does mean that at the moment you're probably not going to grow your chest because of the issues you have with your shoulder. So it's best to steer clear of it until you figure out what those issues are and you can solve them. You don't have to do bench press to increase your chest. So this is where picking the exercise can really help out. We can then look at like centralized or localized types of plans. So a compound exercise is going to use a lot more muscle groups and it's going to be a lot more centralized. So if you do a deadlift, you're going to be using your glutes, lower backs are going to be in play, hamstrings are going to be in play, all sorts are going on. But if you go for something like a leg curl, you're probably just going to be mostly just using your hamstrings, maybe a little bit of calf in there as well. So it's more localized. You're localizing the target muscle group. So they both have different advantages and disadvantages. Heavy compound movements especially can really accumulate fatigue. But if you're a beginner, they can be really, really useful because your stimulus to growth and stimulus to training is going to be so sensitive that you can kind of hit all these different muscle groups at once. So you don't need to isolate everything. And then your fatigue won't be as high anyway because you're probably not going to be lifting that heavy. So compound movements may be the way to go if you're quite new to the gym. Just dealing with the compound movements, getting good at those, hitting multiple muscle groups, and really working on those movements. But if you're a little bit more advanced and you have some muscles that you want to prioritize, you can go into some more isolation work so that you apply the stimulus that you can into that muscle group. And then you're not taking away too much fatigue, if that makes sense. You've only got so much fatigue you can play with. So you can sort of isolate the muscle group, to make sure that when you are taking away that fatigue to the point where you're going to have to deload and take a break, you're working that muscle group as much as possible. And isolation exercises can be really good for that. And they can also be really good for learning how to feel that muscle and getting a mind-muscle connection for other exercises. These exercises that you're going to create, you're probably going to be sticking to for a while. So when we assessed our likes and dislikes before, this is why this is really important, because you're going to want to stick with them for some time to make sure that you can accurately, progressively overload. If you keep swapping your exercise week to week to week, it's hard to know if whether you're improving or not. But if you've got the same exercise and you're using it and it feels great and you keep using it and you keep progressing, you know that, 3 weeks ago, I could do 5 kilos less on that squat than I can do now. You know you've improved. It's the same damn exercise. It hasn't changed. We've eliminated all the variables we can. So it's good to stick to them for as long as we can until joints and things start playing up because of the exercise we're on, and then we might need to change them. But you're sticking to them for a fair amount of time. And then we got your transportation when you're on holiday. This is something that you think about. It's like, we're going to take taxis, buses, trains, that sort of thing. So we can look at our weights, our sets, and our rep ranges. What do we want to use to achieve our goal? So I've got a little bit of a guideline here for you, and it's really basic, but it can be really nuanced between each person. So take it with a little bit of pinch of salt, and these are just rough ranges, and I'll kind of explain why I've got them the way that I have. So it's really dependent on goals and limitations, etc. So your goal, for example here, your goal may be to gain muscle, but you have to go in a higher rep range because of an injury in an eccentric loaded exercise. Eccentric load is better for muscle gain than concentric, but perhaps we're doing a concentrically dominated exercise like a bicep curl, but our shoulder just hurts too much if we do it too heavy, and we're in the rep range of 6 to 12 for the hypertrophy range. But if you do it for 15 to 20 reps, you get a real good feeling in your biceps. It's still going to cause a good amount of growth, and it doesn't bother your injury at all. So this is where the rep ranges and stuff can kind of vary. So I've just got a basic guideline here, just to show you how you would plan something like this, but understand that they can move around, especially if you're new. So for strength, you want something between the 3 to 6 rep range. You don't really want any lower than that. The accumulation of fatigue is just going to be way too high if you're doing 1 rep maxes all the time and always trying to increase. And then your risk of injury is going to be really high as well. So somewhere between the 3 and 6 rep range, and you don't want to go too much higher than this, but arguably if you grow building muscle, you're also going to be building strength. So if your goal is like is to build muscle, don't worry about being like, oh no, I'm going to have to neglect my strength if I'm trying to build muscle. That won't be the case. When you build muscle, you will be building strength as well. You're just not prioritizing it, and your strength isn't going to increase as much as if you did it within the rep ranges and set ranges that I'm going to give you here. So 3 to 6 reps seems to be a good amount of reps to actually increase your strength. It's not so low that the fatigue is going to be massive accumulation so that you can't keep doing it for a certain amount of time to progressive overload and actually improve. But not so high that you're not actually activating the systems that need to be adapted for your strength to be driven up. So for hypertrophy ranges, and then the same sort of logic applies here, anything between sort of 6 and 12, and it can be a little bit lower, it can be like 4, and this is where the specifics come into it, so it's really hard to give you a specific rep range for whoever you are. But something between 6 and 12 is probably going to work really well. It can be higher and lower depending. I wouldn't want it any lower than 4, but it can go all the way up to, I believe it's 50 reps, and then there's some drop off of tail end. But there are variables that come into play, and this is where it becomes super nuanced. Maybe you go into a squat and you do 10 reps and you are just like you can't breathe. Like, it is just the worst feeling, and your quads and your glutes and your back don't really feel that much. They don't feel like they've worked that hard, but you're just gassed that you just can't go anymore. So you're best served making it heavier and going for a lower rep range. Or conversely, you could do a 6 rep, 4-6 rep range, and it'd be really heavy, and it just blasts you, but you're not really feeling anything. You're trying to target your quads with the squat, and you're just like, well, Maybe it's targeting my squat. If messing me up, but I can kind of feel my quads. Probably worth going a little bit higher and seeing if you get a better feeling in your quads, without it causing that massive like centralized fatigue. And then you've got metabolic programs. So this is more towards, it can work more towards weight loss. Metabolic is a lot more concentrically biased. And it can have a few different advantages. It's going to burn more calories. You're going to have an afterburn effect that burns more calories as well. It's not essential that you do this for weight loss. What's really essential is like the dieting side of things. But what you can also have an advantage of, if you have like a step goal and you don't want to be too sore the next day, and you do some hypertrophy work because you want to grow your muscle while losing weight, but it just absolutely wrecks you and you can't take any more than like 2,000 steps the next day, and it fucks up your whole step goal of like trying to get 12,000 steps. That can be really annoying, and metabolic workouts can really help in that aspect as well. So you actually just move in more week to week because you're not so sore all the time, and you don't really want to gain too much muscle. You just want to lose weight. Metabolic workouts can be great for that. And anything between sort of 10 and 30, this wants to be in a higher rep range, wants to get you a little bit out of breath. Set ranges for strength, about 4 to 6 sets. This can be overall throughout a workout. You can have about 10 to 15 sets. Anything higher than that, you're probably going to get so knackered by the end of it that the actual work that you're doing on your strength exercises probably just sucks. And that's kind of going to be the underlying reason for a lot of these numbers here. Hypertrophy, 3 to 6 sets. Anything more than that, for different muscle groups, it's going to change a little bit. If you can do 6 sets on your hamstrings, you're probably not training them right. But you could probably do a good 6 sets on your biceps and it'd be fine. So this will vary a little bit, and anywhere between sort of 15, 20 sets throughout a whole workout can be a little bit higher, maybe even a little bit lower, not so specific, but will be a good range for you. And metabolic, 3+ sets, 20, 30, 3+ sets for an individual exercise, 20, 30 overall throughout the workout would be good. Finding your actual working weight. So you're going to do this by having a warm-up. And once you've done it once, you've got an idea, and then you've got an idea for every time you do that exercise, as long as you remain consistent. So you'll do about 8 to 10 reps of a weight you could probably do for about 18 to 20 reps. So you're leaving quite a few reps in reserve, about 10 reps in reserve. And then the next set, after you wait about a minute, you're going to do about 6 to 8 reps of a weight that you could probably do for about 12 to 15 reps. And then for the last set, you're going to do a set of 4 reps with a weight that you could probably do for about 8 to 10 reps. And as you go up in these working weights, you're going to get a better idea of what your working weight, warm-up weight, sorry, you're going to get a better idea of what your working weight needs to be for the exercise that you're practicing this for. Cool. So we've got that. Now, picking a date for your holiday. When do you actually start your plan? So you've got an idea of what your plan is. When do you actually begin? Do you begin today, tomorrow? What do you do? So it's kind of whenever your limitations allow. So if work and kids and family life and everything else permits you to start tomorrow, maybe you could just start tomorrow. But it's still important to have a real start date in mind for the psychological aspect. If you have if you're just like, oh, I'll just start it kind of when I'm ready, it's going to be a totally different experience. So if you go, right, I'm going to start this in a month or a week or a day because I know I'll be ready by then, all my limitations are in hand, this is when I can go for it. Now, there are some examples where perhaps, especially if you're really new, giving yourself a week to understand which exercises you want to do and get used to your new schedule that you're going to be trying to achieve when you go into it, and you've just joined the gym and you don't know your way around, you're not comfortable yet, maybe you want to take a week before you actually start your first block, that you're going into the gym, you're trying out different exercises, which feels good, what will work for my muscles, and the muscles that I want to target. Understanding how long it takes to get to the gym and back from driving. Is there traffic at certain times that you didn't know before? So really getting a good idea of what your schedule is going to feel like. So sometimes it might be worth it just taking a week and be like, right, I've got everything in plan, I'm really ready to go, but I'm just going to hold off for a week and gather a bit more data here and understand what I'm jumping into before I go straight into it, because we don't want problems to arise once we're in our newfound schedule. We want them to arise before. So if you have no idea and this is brand new to you, it's a new gym, and these are new exercises, maybe take a week and figure things out before you jump into it. And then returning home from your holiday, when do you actually finish? When does your mesocycle end, which will be the start of your training block to the end? When your goals are met, perhaps. You might reach your goal in 12 weeks, and then you finish it, and you reevaluate and make a new goal. Now, it can have a good idea to have an end date in mind, because this will give you specifics of other areas that we've touched on. If you want to lose weight, and you want to lose, let's say, a stone, it's like 14 pounds, which is like just under 7 kilos or something. It's like 14 pounds, maybe a bit more under that. You can make an end date based off that, based on how much of a restriction in your calories you want. If you want to lose £1 a week and your goal is to lose 14 pounds and you're quite new to the gym, perhaps you've got a really solid end date there already. It's 14 weeks away. That's your mesocycle. Bang, easy. Keeps you on track. If you're not hitting your pound off each week, you know something's going wrong. And you're not going to hit your goal by the end of that mesocycle, which you're going to want to do. So from a mental and psychological aspect, again, it can be really helpful. But don't be too caught up on these goals and getting them in within a certain time, because there can be little aspects and variables that come along that kind of ruin it for you. So you may be dictated by fatigue. Maybe you just can't keep up with your training for 14 weeks. I know I certainly couldn't. And as you get more advanced, you will not be able to train for that long. But as a new individual, you might be able to. But fatigue may dictate the mesocycle has to end before you want it to, in which case you take a deload for like a week off, and then you just jump back onto it, and it takes a little longer than you thought. Who cares? You still improved from the person that you was. So this is why like a solid end date, real solid one, might not be the best idea, but it's good to have an end date in mind. But it may, fatigue from training, fatigue from diet, these are all things that can pop up that we need to take a break sometimes from, and then, have multiple of these mesocycles to actually achieve our given goal. Give yourself some room to breathe. So perhaps you're not 100% sure yet how long that's going to be, and that's fine. You're going to get better at this as you progress, and as you figure out more about yourself and how you react to training, you're going to get better at making plans for yourself and actually training. It's going to get easier. And the only way it's going to get easier and you're going to get more confident is through repetition and doing it. So don't get too caught up in the semantics of like what your goal really is and you have to achieve it by this time. Chill out. Don't stress out about it. As long as you're progressing little bit by bit, these problems that arise, you learn to deal with them, and then you learn to predict when they'll happen again. When you do the next plan, it's going to get easier and you get to plan better. And then we get into prepping for your holiday. So you do things like travel insurance, packing your bags, remembering your suntan cream, etc. This is the same as keeping on track in the gym. Adherence to the plan is the same as getting your travel insurance. If you can get travel insurance, you can adhere to your plan. Kind of, it's just the analogy. But it shouldn't be an issue. If we've got our needs and individualization correct, then adherence shouldn't be a problem. We've at least eliminated as many variables as we can that could arise to cause a problem when trying to create our plan. Sometimes things happen, but getting back on track as soon as possible is the key to achieving your goal. If you need to take a break for whatever reason, life happens, you need to have a record of your workouts and your progress and stuff, etc. You need to know what you're jumping back into. You need to have had a plan to jump back into a plan. If you're just going to the gym willy-nilly and you don't know what you're doing and you're just jumping on this, jumping on that, and then when you go back into it, you don't know where you are, and it's just, it doesn't make sense to do. We want to have an aim. And then we need to keep a record of what we're doing to actually achieve this. So I'm jumping forward. But keeping a record and progress. So next we go into packing our bags. So this is like progression and progression overload. So we want to make sure that we're improving all the time. Each week we want to make sure we're improving. We want to add a rep or some load or maybe even a set to your workout from the last time. Now this will be dependent on like your fatigue and your recovery, etc. If you haven't recovered from the exercise from last time, maybe it's not a good idea to add a set on, like it's just going to absolutely ruin you. But if you did the exercise and you were a little bit sore the next morning, you recovered by the time you returned to that exercise, then you sure as hell want to be adding a rep or some load to it, or maybe even a set if you really want to push the boundaries from your workout from the last time that you did it. And we keep doing this until we, our fatigue accumulates so much that the mesocycle has to end. Now you need to keep a record of what you're doing to be able to do this. So whether you have like an app that does this for you, or notes on your phone, or maybe you write on a notepad, I don't care how you keep that record. It's just important that you do keep a record so you know where you were last time that you was doing it. It's super important that we do this to reach our goals, whether it's weight-wise, strength-wise, or muscle gain-wise. You don't know if you're losing weight if you're not weighing yourself. You don't know if you'll have the right diet to lose weight if you're not tracking your calories. There are other ways to do it, but just as an example, you don't know if you're getting stronger if you're not tracking how strong you were last time. You don't know if you're getting bigger if you're not looking at like progress photos, you're not measuring yourself, and again, you're not progressing in the gym. Like if your goal is muscle gain and you're getting weaker, you're not gaining any muscle. And then remembering your suntan cream, so this is your technique. Fundamental, we don't want skin cancer. So we want to make sure that our technique is correct. Not that it will give you skin cancer, but that's how important it is. Technique is your battle against skin cancer in terms of fitness and working out and reaching your goal. That's how important it is. So every set and exercise we do wants to be difficult, but the technique is always key over weight and load. Stop trying to impress yourself and others around you. Make sure you keep the technique right. If the technique's right, then we can progress without any variables. Every rep that you do wants to look the exact same as the last rep that you did. It might get slower, but I want it to look the same. We don't want one chest press looking great and then the next one like wobbling around and you don't know where you are and you fall off the bench, and it's no good. Every rep needs to be the same. In most cases, for simplicity, just achieve a full range of motion. There are advantages to other ranges of motion, etc. But if you're just a beginner and you've got some simple goals and we're going to make a plan off of this, use a full range of motion for each exercise that you do and achieve it for every rep. Good. And then arrival. We're finally there. We've got to the holiday. We've enjoyed ourselves. We've drunk too much. We've made some regrettable decisions. We forgot to take any photos. We went back home. Everyone asked how it was. And you say, don't talk to me. I made some mistakes. I'm never going back there. I can't be seen there again. But not in terms of your fitness goal. You reach your goal and you feel great about it. So, you've just hit your goal. Fantastic. Now, chances are that it doesn't end here for you. Your standards have changed and now you want to reach new heights. Fantastic. Repeat the process. And you may find that it's the exact same as the process that you just did. Maybe your exercises don't want to change and you don't have any joint fatigue and they feel great and you want to keep going. If you've been squatting and you've been getting stronger and you've been getting PRs every week, and you're like, I still feel great and I still want to grow my legs and I love squatting. Don't change it, keep going. Why not? But if your hips are hurting or battered and your lower back kills you every time, then maybe it's time to change things up. So there's some things to note here. That we've achieved our goals. Sometimes we need to change some things up, but our fundamental and specific goals remain the same. Don't panic if this happens. Sometimes we made like a selection of exercises and we thought we got our diet right, but then we find out it needs adjusting. Things need to change. That just hurts me too much. I can't stick to this diet and I'm losing weight really quickly and that's great, but I'm just too hungry all the time. We need to adjust it, and the rest of the goals can remain the same, and we can pinpoint little areas that we can improve. Don't panic. It's part of the process of improving. Sometimes the things that we have just never go 100% correct. Not the way we want them to. And then some closing thoughts, summarising the whole thing. Hopefully this gives you a really good idea of actually how to make a plan. And that you have the ability to do it alone, and that you understand that you have the ability to do it alone. Because if you can book up a holiday and plan for that, then you can plan for your next fitness goal. You do have the ability to create a plan if you have the ability to plan a holiday or any other type of plan. if you can do that, then you have the cognitive bandwidth to make a fitness program. Now, you may not have all the knowledge to get the most optimal results, but that's okay. You're going to improve the more you do it. Just understanding goals gives you an idea and a path of what you need to learn. Because otherwise everything just feels so overwhelming and you don't know where you're going. There's so much information out there. Oh yeah, these are great, but are they great for me? And you don't know that because you don't know your goals. But with this plan, you'll know your goals and then you get to actually figure out what you need to learn. And sometimes you don't have the time to learn these things and all this planning just sounds too much and you've got family, you've got career, etc. And that's where a coach like me comes in handy. And that would be great because that means I get rich and then my parents are proud of me, my friends respect me, or at least they pretend to. They pretend to like me more because I have more money and I'm buying them nice things and maybe I get a date, so that's all great. But if you have time to do it yourself, hopefully this helps to teach you how. And I hope that this does help. But now you have all the info you need to make a basic first plan for yourself and start gathering the information that you need to create better plans and get better and adjust things from there. Good luck, hope this helps, and I'll see you next time.